Hey there, drone fans. In today's video, I'll try and tackle a question: do you really need a landing gear kit for your drone? And this is a question I get all the time from both new pilots that maybe have seen me fly with a landing gear kit on my drone and they want to know what it's all about, or new pilots that are looking for accessories that they can add to their drone to improve their flying experience, make it a little safer, a little bit more fun, and they're wondering, is this something they should add to their kit? So before I answer the question, and I promise I'm going to answer it in a second or two, let's talk about accessories, because it seems like every time a new drone comes out, a bunch of factories spin up and start producing accessories that they think you're going to need for your drone. And a lot of them look great on a website. So maybe you visit the website, you see something that looks incredibly cool, and you think, I got to get that. And you order it, it shows up a couple days later, you put it on your drone, you go out to fly, and in a couple of flights you realize, didn't really do what I wanted, it's not really something that helps me fly, and it ends up in a pile in the corner and you've wasted a lot of money. So if you're flying a drone, it's really important to think about what accessories make a difference. Which ones make it a little safer, a little bit more fun, maybe a little quicker to get up in the air, and really only focus on those accessories. So the challenge is, when I pose the question, do you really need a landing gear kit for your drone? The key word there is need, because need is one of those words that's completely personal. What I need, you may not need, right? And need's one of those things where there are only a few things in life you really need, right? You need air, you need food, you need somebody to hug, companionship. Those are things you need to survive. You don't even need the drone, but if you've got a drone, do you really need this? So for me, the answer is absolutely. So if you're flying a folding drone like this, a landing gear kit can save you a lot of time and headache down the road, and I'll explain why. So when we think back to the first folding drones that were released, and DJI was pretty much a pioneer in this space, they came out with the original Mavic Pro. And for me, it was an epiphany, because I'd been flying fixed airframe drones for a long time. And a fixed airframe drone really was sort of standing up off the ground, and it had legs that extended down, which meant the camera and gimbal were way up. They were a couple of inches off the ground. So you could land a Phantom 4 Pro in grass and dirt and mud. You could land it anywhere, and the camera and gimbal were far enough up where they weren't really at risk of getting damaged. The problem with folding drones was that DJI had this sort of Faustian bargain they had to negotiate, where they had to make a drone small enough to be portable, but still far enough off the ground where when the camera went through its power on self-test routine, where it goes to the end to travel to make sure there's no restrictions, it had to clear the ground. But it barely cleared the ground. So if you look at any of these drones without this kit on it, you're going to find that the camera is literally on the ground. I mean, it is so close to that surface, which means if you're flying and for whatever reason you've got to land it someplace you didn't expect. Now, if you land on a landing mat, you're probably going to be okay. But if you don't have a landing mat because you hand launched it and you've got to land it in the grass, you've got to land on soft dirt or on rocks, that camera and gimbal are at risk of being damaged. So the landing gear kit gives you that extra peace of mind to know that if I have to land it somewhere I didn't expect to, I've got a little extra clearance where the camera and gimbal are going to be off the ground. The second reason the landing gear kit is good is because even if you're landing and taking off from a parking lot, whether it's macadam and cement, whatever it happens to be, and it's a hard surface, there's debris on that surface. Now, if you don't believe me, lick your finger and put it down on a macadam parking lot, and then look at your finger. You're going to see little grains of sand and dirt and other things there, probably some scary stuff. All of that gets kicked up the minute the drone spins up. So for a drone to lift off, it's got to create downward thrust. And when it creates downward thrust with the propellers, all of that debris is going to get blown up in the air. And where's it going to end up? In your sensitive gimbal down here and your expensive camera. Not only that, most drones have ventilation systems that pull air in from the front to keep the electronics cool. You kick up those fine particles of sand, they're going to get pulled inside the drone and eventually clog up that ventilation system. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong there. And I know it probably takes a while for that to happen. It's not going to happen in your first or second flight, but over time, your drone's going to get dirty from that. So this gives you, again, not a big distance, right? It's not lifting it a foot off the ground, but just enough to give you a little extra clearance where that stuff's not going to necessarily get right up in your gimbal or your camera. And again, the problem is, if it gets up in there, how do you clear it out? Yeah, you can use compressed air and blow it out or whatever, but for me, I just don't want to deal with that. But the bigger issue is, even if you're a hand launcher and a hand catcher, which a lot of people do, I don't do these. I do this one occasionally. I certainly do the Neo and the Flip because they're designed to do that, but I'm not launching these guys or hand catching these guys. I know a lot of people do, and if you're good at it, that's great. but these are like flying Cuisinarts. You put these up in the air and you reach for it and maybe it moves a little bit or tilts a little bit. These guys can really nick a finger up bad where you're ending up in the hospital with stitches or even worse. So I'm not hand launching and hand catching these. I use a mat with them pretty much every time I fly or I find a surface I can land them on, but I still want the landing gear kits on these for the exact same reasons I talked about here. But even with this one, if you hand launch and hand catch it, you don't know what's going to happen over the 30 plus minutes of flight time. You may put it up and the air's not that bad, but all of a sudden the wind kicks up and the drone's coming back and you find out you can't land it where you thought you could land it, or the mat blew away or something happened where you got to land it at an alternative spot. You know, with the landing gear kit on it, I can put it down in the grass. I can put it down on soft dirt. I can even land it in that parking lot that I'm not crazy about landing in because I'm not going to have to deal with the debris being blown up in the air. So for me, this is one of those inexpensive, easy to use accessories. You basically flip over the drone. These two just snap on. This one's got a strap on the top. You locate it on the bottom like that. You flip the drone over and you tighten up the strap, and that's it. And then you're ready to go. So for me, that little addition is an incredibly easy thing to use, and it works really well. Now, the ones I'm showing here are what I'll call spider versions. Now, there are other versions on the market that have like 2 skis on either side. There's a couple others that have floating skis. I like these with the spider feet for a couple of reasons. Number one, when you have the skis, you only have 2 points of contact. So if you're landing on rocks or an uneven surface, it could tilt over to one side or it could flip over to one side. By having 3 feet, at least, or there's 4 feet, but 3 feet on a stable surface, even if the 4th foot is not touching something solid, you're not going to flip over. So I like that. I also like the fact that these fold up. So I can fold them up like this and put it back in my kit pretty much flat. So it fits in the case with that on there. When I fold up the drone, it doesn't interfere. In the case of the Mini 4 Pro, it doesn't interfere with the gimbal going back on. It doesn't interfere with any issues around, propeller straps or any of that stuff. So again, for me, and I know the need word is the key here, right? Do you really need it? I would say you do. But other people might say, nonsense, Rick. I'm going to land that thing anywhere I want to land it. I don't need the landing gear kit. If that's what your opinion is, then that's great for you. Then don't buy one of these things. But if you've ever been curious about it, the 2 points I'll make once again are it protects your camera and gimbal, which are the most expensive parts of the drone, and honestly the most easily damaged. And it also keeps everything nice and clean. It puts it up off the ground, so you've got that peace of mind that you can land it virtually anywhere except really tall grass and not have to worry about damaging your camera or gimbal. So that was pretty much it for today. I hope that helped clarify things for you. I have these available because we offer accessories just like a million other websites, but we only put stuff on the website that we use ourselves and that we can recommend. So the reason I wanted to do this clip was a lot of people are asking me, hey, I got to get out. Should I do that or shouldn't I do that? I'm going to say you should do it. And if you want to do it and you want to support the channel, you can hit the links below. I've got them available for these 3 drones. There's plenty in stock. We can ship them right out to you. So anyway, that's it for today. If you have other questions or you have a strong opinion on this, drop those in the comments below and we'll answer back as quickly as we can. I have a ton more content coming. Luckily, we're in spring now, which means we've got some beautiful days out there. So you can expect a flood of new drone clips on the channel to sort of support technology and advancements and new drones that are coming for the spring and some other cool accessories that I'll try and answer questions around. But that's pretty much it for today. So thanks an awful lot for watching. And until next time, as always, happy flying.